The weight of unspoken words. The pregnancy test in my hand showed 2 pink lines, but my husband had been dead for 3 months. I stood frozen in my bathroom, the world spinning around me as the impossible stared back at me. The only man I'd been with since Daniel's funeral was standing in my kitchen right now, my best friend Sarah's husband, Marcus. And he had no idea what I was holding, what we had done, or that his wife was pulling into my driveway at this very moment. "Emma? You okay in there?" Marcus called out, his voice carrying that smooth, charismatic warmth that had been my undoing on that terrible, beautiful night when grief had shattered every boundary I'd ever known. My hands trembled as I shoved the test into my pocket, my fair skin flushing crimson in the mirror. Sarah couldn't know. No one could ever know. But secrets have a way of demanding to be told, and this one was already growing inside me. I walked out of the bathroom on unsteady legs, my long silky hair falling like a curtain around my face as I tried to compose myself. Marcus stood by my kitchen window, his aesthetic build silhouetted against the afternoon light, that sharp jawline and those penetrating eyes that had seen me at my most vulnerable. He turned, and something in my expression must have betrayed me because his brow furrowed with concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, attempting one of his characteristic witty deflections. But his voice faltered when the front door opened and Sarah walked in. "Surprise." "I finished my meeting early," Sarah announced, her bright smile lighting up the room. She kissed Marcus's cheek and then embraced me, her best friend of 15 years. "I figured I'd join you two for lunch." "What were you guys talking about?" If you're already invested in Emma's impossible situation, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button now because this story takes turns you won't see coming. The lie came easily, too easily. Just discussing the memorial fund for Daniel. Marcus has been helping with the legal paperwork. It wasn't entirely false. Marcus was a lawyer, and he had genuinely been helping me navigate the nightmare of sudden widowhood. But what had started as friendship and support had become something neither of us could take back. Let me take you back 3 months, to the night that changed everything. Daniel and I had been married for 7 years. He was my college sweetheart, my rock, my future. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years, enduring countless disappointments, never imagining that time was running out in ways we couldn't foresee. The car accident happened on a Tuesday, an ordinary Tuesday when he was driving home from work. A drunk driver ran a red light, and in an instant, my entire world collapsed. The funeral was a blur of black clothing and hollow condolences. Sarah and Marcus were there every step of the way. Sarah had been my roommate in college, my maid of honor, the sister I'd chosen. And Marcus, handsome, funny, impossibly charming Marcus, had become like a brother to me over the 8 years he and Sarah had been together. But grief does strange things to people. It strips away pretense, dissolves boundaries, and exposes raw need that polite society pretends doesn't exist. It happened 6 weeks after Daniel's death. Sarah was away at a work conference in Chicago, and I'd called Marcus in a panic because I'd found Daniel's wedding ring, the one I thought had been lost in the accident, tucked inside his desk drawer along with a letter. A letter addressed to someone named Victoria. Marcus came over immediately. I was hysterical, convinced that my dead husband had been having an affair, that my entire marriage had been a lie. Marcus held me while I sobbed, his strong arms the only thing keeping me from flying apart. He made me tea, he listened. He offered his sharp wit to cut through my spiraling thoughts. "Emma, you don't know what that letter means," he said gently. "Daniel loved you. Everyone could see it." "Then why?" I cried. "Why would he hide this?" Marcus had no answers. But he stayed. He stayed long past midnight, long past the point where I should have sent him home. We opened a bottle of wine, then another. I felt reckless with grief, desperate to feel something other than pain. I don't remember who reached for whom first. Maybe it doesn't matter. What I remember is the way he looked at me, not with pity, but with something hungry and conflicted. I remember his hands in my hair, his lips on mine, the way guilt and desire tangled together until I couldn't tell them apart. When I woke the next morning, he was gone. A note on my pillow read, "This never happened. For everyone's sake." And we had both pretended, for 3 agonizing months, that it hadn't. Now, sitting at my kitchen table with Sarah's hand clasped in mine and Marcus unable to meet my eyes, the secret pulsed inside me like a second heartbeat. Lunch was torture. Every laugh Sarah made cut like glass. Every time Marcus's gaze accidentally caught mine, I saw the same terror reflected back. "You seem different lately, Sarah observed, tilting her head. "More. I don't know. There's a glow about you." I nearly choked on my water. "I'm just finally sleeping better." "That's wonderful." Sarah squeezed my hand. "I was so worried about you. Those first few weeks, you were like a ghost yourself." Marcus stood abruptly. "I need to get back to the office. Early deposition tomorrow." His voice was strained, his usual humor nowhere to be found. "I'll walk you out," I said quickly. Too quickly. Sarah's eyes flickered between us for just a moment that lasted a lifetime. At the door, out of Sarah's sight, Marcus grabbed my arm. "What's wrong? And don't lie to me, Emma. You went into that bathroom fine and came out looking like death. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Alone." His expression hardened. "Emma, we agreed. Tomorrow, Marcus. The coffee shop on 5th. Noon." I pulled free and opened the door. "Trust me. You're going to want to hear this. What do you think Emma should do? Should she tell Marcus the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure you're subscribed because the confrontation at the coffee shop changes everything." That night, sleep was impossible. I lay in the bed I'd shared with Daniel, one hand on my still flat stomach, the other clutching the mysterious letter I'd found in his desk. I'd never had the courage to read it properly. The discovery had sent me spiraling into Marcus's arms instead. But now, with my whole life hanging in the balance, I needed answers. I unfolded the yellowed paper with trembling fingers. "My dearest Victoria, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And there are things you need to know about Emma. Things I should have told you both years ago. She's stronger than she knows. She'll survive this, even when she thinks she can't. But she's going to need you. You're the only family she has left now, even if she doesn't know you exist. I'm sorry I kept you apart. I was afraid she'd feel like I was replacing her mother, afraid that knowing about you would reopen wounds I'd tried so hard to heal. Victoria, please find her. Tell her about me, about our father, about everything. Your brother. Daniel." The letter slipped from my numb fingers. Brother. Daniel had a sister named Victoria that he'd never told me about in 7 years of marriage. Our entire relationship, he'd claimed to be an only child, orphaned young, no family left. And it had all been a lie. Why? What was he hiding? And how did this Victoria fit into the puzzle of my husband's secret life? I didn't sleep at all that night. By morning, I'd made a decision. Before I told Marcus about the baby, I needed to find Victoria. I needed to understand who Daniel really was. The coffee shop was crowded when I arrived, but I spotted Marcus immediately. He sat in a corner booth, his leg bouncing with nervous energy, his handsome face drawn with tension. Despite everything, my heart still skipped when I saw him. I hated myself for it. "You look terrible," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Funny. I was going to say the same about you." A ghost of his usual wit flickered across his features. "But it doesn't seem fair to insult a widow. Former widow, technically. Can you be a widow if your husband was apparently hiding a secret sister and an entire past life?" I pulled out the letter and slid it across the table. Marcus read it twice, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief. Daniel had a sister? And he never mentioned her. Never hinted. Nothing. I took a shaky breath. Marcus, what else was he hiding? What if I never knew him at all? Marcus reached across the table and took my hand. His touch sent electricity through my veins, and I hated how much I still wanted him. "Emma, whatever secrets Daniel kept, they don't change what you two had. Doesn't change that he loved you. Maybe." I pulled my hand back. "But that's not why I asked you here." His jaw tightened. "I figured. I'm pregnant." The words hung between us like a death sentence. Marcus went absolutely still, his face draining of color. For a long moment, the only sound was the clatter of coffee cups and the murmur of strangers' conversations, people living ordinary lives while ours fractured into pieces. That's not possible, he finally managed. We used. Nothing is foolproof. I watched emotions war across his features: shock, fear, guilt, and something else I couldn't name. Marcus, I don't know what to do. He ran both hands through his hair, that characteristic gesture of stress I'd seen 1,000 times. Have you told anyone? Just you. Does anyone suspect? Sarah noticed I looked different yesterday. She said I was glowing. He let out a strangled laugh. Of course she did. My wife notices everything. He dropped his head into his hands. God, Emma. What have we done? We made a mistake. A terrible, unforgivable mistake. My voice cracked. But there's a baby now. A baby that's half yours. And I need to know what you want me to do. This is the moment that tests everything: loyalty, love, truth. If you're feeling this story, hit that like button and let me know. What would you do in Emma's shoes? Before Marcus could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and went even paler. It's Sarah. She's asking where I am. Tell her you're with a client. I don't lie to my wife. You've been lying to her for 3 months. The accusation landed like a slap. Marcus's expression hardened, that sharp wit turning defensive. And whose fault is that? You called me that night. You were the one who. Don't. My voice was ice. Don't you dare put this all on me. We both made choices. We both have to live with them. He exhaled slowly, some of the fight leaving him. You're right. I'm sorry. I don't know how to do this. I love Sarah. I've loved her for 10 years. But that night with you was a mistake. I finished for him. Was the only time I felt truly alive since I can't remember when. He met my eyes, and I saw my own conflicted feelings reflected back. Emma, my marriage has been falling apart for years. Sarah and I, we're more roommates than partners. We haven't been intimate in months. That night with you wasn't just grief, it was an escape. And I hate myself for it. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to acknowledge the connection that still crackled between us. But the bigger part knew that comfort would lead us right back to the same place that had created this nightmare. I'm not asking you to leave, Sarah, I said carefully. I'm not asking you for anything. But this baby exists and decisions need to be made. What do you want, Emma? Honestly. If you could have anything. The question broke something inside me. What did I want? I wanted Daniel to be alive. I wanted the last 3 months to be a nightmare I could wake from. I wanted to never have made that call, never have opened that bottle of wine, never have looked at Marcus the way I did. But those weren't options anymore. I want to find Victoria, I said finally. I want to understand who my husband really was. And I want to keep this baby, because it might be the only piece of family I have left. I paused. Beyond that, I don't know. Marcus nodded slowly. Then let me help you find her. Let me do something good, something that isn't just destruction. Why? Because maybe if I help you, I can forgive myself for what I did. His hand found mine again, and this time I didn't pull away. And because whatever happens next, you shouldn't have to face it alone. Finding Victoria was easier than I expected. Daniel had left more clues than he'd realized, old photos in boxes I'd never opened, a passport from before we met with a hometown I'd never heard of, Cedar Falls, Pennsylvania. A quick internet search revealed Victoria Mitchell, 41 years old, still living in the same small town. I called her the next day. Hello. The voice on the other end was warm but cautious. Is this Victoria Mitchell? Victoria. Daniel Mitchell's sister. A sharp intake of breath. Then silence. For a moment, I thought she'd hung up. Who is this? She finally asked. My name is Emma. I was Daniel's wife. He passed away 3 months ago, and I just found out about you. I found a letter he'd written. I know. Her voice cracked. I saw the obituary. I wanted to come to the funeral, but I didn't think. I wasn't sure I'd be welcome. He wanted us to meet. The letter said he wanted you to find me. Another long pause. Can you come here? To Cedar Falls? There are things I need to show you, things that aren't phone conversation material. What kind of things? Things about your husband that might change everything you thought you knew. And things about yourself, Emma. Things Daniel should have told you years ago. Asterisk, what is Victoria hiding about Daniel? And what secrets about Emma's own identity could possibly exist? If you're dying to know, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because the truth is more shocking than anything you're imagining. Asterisk. I made the drive to Cedar Falls 3 days later. Marcus wanted to come, but I knew this was something I had to do alone. Besides, he needed to be home. Sarah had started asking questions about his late nights and distracted behavior. The web of lies was growing tighter by the day. Victoria lived in a small farmhouse at the edge of town. She was waiting on the porch when I pulled up, a woman in her early 40s with Daniel's eyes, Daniel's quiet strength, and a sadness that seemed to emanate from her very bones. "You're more beautiful than I imagined," she said as I approached. "Daniel always described you as radiant, but I didn't quite believe him. He talked about me every time he called." She gestured toward the door. "Come inside. We have a lot to discuss." The farmhouse was cluttered but clean, filled with photographs I'd never seen. Daniel as a child. Daniel as a teenager. Daniel and Victoria, arms around each other, clearly siblings. A whole life that existed before me, that had been carefully erased from our shared history. "Why did he hide you?" I asked, sinking into a worn couch. "Why did he lie about his family?" Victoria sat across from me, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "Because hiding me meant hiding what happened to our parents. And hiding that meant hiding what he did." "What do you mean, what he did?" She took a deep breath. "Emma, our parents didn't die in a car accident like Daniel told you. They died in a fire. A fire that Daniel started." The room tilted. "That's impossible. Daniel would never. He was 17. Our father was abusive. Violently so. One night, he went after our mother with a knife. Daniel tried to intervene. There was a struggle. A kerosene lamp got knocked over. Victoria's voice was steady, but her eyes glistened with unshed tears. The official report called it an accident. But Daniel never forgave himself. He spent years in therapy, years running from what happened. He moved away, changed his last name, built a new identity. I was the only one who knew the truth, and he made me promise never to reach out. I couldn't breathe. My Daniel, gentle, loving Daniel, had killed his parents. Even accidentally, even to protect his mother, he had carried that guilt every day of our marriage. And I'd never known. Never even suspected. He wanted to tell you, Victoria continued. He almost did, so many times. But he was terrified that if you knew the truth, you'd look at him differently. That you'd see a monster instead of the man you loved. I wouldn't have. But even as I said it, I wondered. Would I really have married a man who'd killed his parents, even in self-defense? Would I have seen past the flames to the frightened boy beneath? There's more. Victoria set down her mug. Something Daniel discovered about a year before he died. Something he was still trying to figure out how to tell you. What could possibly be bigger than this? Victoria reached into a folder on the coffee table and pulled out a photograph. A woman with long dark hair and striking features, holding a baby. Do you know who this is? I studied the image. Something about the woman's eyes seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it. No. Should I? That's your mother, Emma. Your birth mother. Her name was Rebecca Mitchell. I stared at her, uncomprehending. My mother's name was Susan Carter. She died when I was 2. Susan Carter adopted you when you were 6 months old, after Rebecca, my mother, gave you up. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper now. Emma, Daniel wasn't just my brother. He was your brother too. Half-brother. Same mother, different fathers. The photograph fell from my nerveless fingers. No, it wasn't possible. There had to be a mistake. I would have known. Someone would have told me. Daniel would never have. But Daniel had kept secrets before. Daniel had hidden an entire life, an entire identity, a deadly past. Why not this too? He only found out after your wedding, Victoria said quickly. He was going through our mother's old things when he discovered her diary, the adoption records. He was devastated. He wanted to tell you immediately, but by then you'd been married for years. He was afraid of what it would do to you, to your marriage, to everything you'd built together. We were married, I heard myself say. We were trying to have children. And we were siblings. Half-siblings. And legally, the marriage was valid. You had no knowledge of the relationship, and neither did he at the time of the wedding. Victoria reached for my hand. Emma, I know this is overwhelming. I know it changes everything. But Daniel loved you. Not as a brother. He never knew to love you that way. He loved you as his wife, his partner, his future. The guilt of that almost destroyed him. I thought of all the nights Daniel had seemed distant, preoccupied. All the times I'd found him staring at old photographs with an expression I couldn't read. The way he'd sometimes look at me with such profound sadness that it stole my breath. Is that why he never wanted to seriously pursue fertility treatments? I asked, the pieces finally clicking into place. Is that why he kept stalling, making excuses? Victoria nodded slowly. He couldn't bear the thought of passing on that kind of secret to a child. Couldn't bear the genetic complications. But he didn't know how to explain it without revealing everything else. I started laughing then, a broken, hysterical sound that quickly dissolved into sobs. Victoria held me while I cried. This stranger who was also my sister, this connection I'd never known existed. And through the chaos of my grief and shock, one thought burned brighter than all the others. The baby I was carrying wasn't related to Daniel at all. It was Marcus's child, purely and completely. There was no genetic connection, no hidden incest, no horrifying secret attached to this new life. The universe, in its twisted way, had given me a perverse kind of mercy. I stayed in Cedar Falls for 3 days. Victoria and I talked for hours, filling in the gaps of our family history, mourning the connections we'd missed and the brother we'd both loved. She showed me my birth mother's grave, a simple stone in the local cemetery. She told me stories about Daniel as a child, mischievous, protective, already carrying the weight of their father's violence. By the time I drove home, I was wrung out, empty, and paradoxically more whole than I'd felt in months. The truth was devastating, but at least it was the truth. No more shadows. No more secrets. Well, almost no more secrets. Marcus was waiting on my porch when I arrived, his handsome face drawn with worry. You weren't answering your phone. I was afraid something had happened. Something did happen, but not what you think. I unlocked the door and gestured for him to follow me inside. Close the door. And sit down. Because I have a lot to tell you. I told him everything. About Victoria. About the fire. About the adoption, the half-siblings, the impossible marriage. Marcus listened without interrupting, his sharp wit nowhere in evidence. When I finished, he looked shell-shocked. So Daniel, he found out you were his sister, and he didn't tell you for years? Half-sister. And yes. I leaned back against the couch cushions, exhausted. I've spent the last 3 days trying to process it. I'm not sure I ever will. God, Emma. He moved closer, tentatively putting an arm around my shoulders. I'm so sorry. For all of it. There's a strange kind of relief, too. The baby? I touched my stomach. There's no blood connection to Daniel. Whatever complications might have existed, they don't. This child is purely yours and mine. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Sarah and I talked while you were gone. My heart clenched. About? About us. About our marriage. He turned to face me fully. I didn't tell her about you. But I told her I haven't been happy for a long time. I told her I'm not sure we can fix what's broken between us. His voice dropped. She agreed to couples counseling. But Emma, I'm not sure counseling can save something that died years ago. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't know what the future holds. For any of us. He took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. But I know I can't stop thinking about you. Not just because of the baby. Because of who you are. Because of how alive you make me feel. Marcus. I wanted to pull away. I should have pulled away. Sarah is my best friend. I know. This is wrong. I know that too. His eyes met mine, and I saw the same war I was fighting reflected there. But tell me you don't feel it. Tell me that night was just grief, just alcohol, just a mistake. Tell me, and I'll walk away right now. I couldn't tell him that, because it would be a lie. Whatever had sparked between us that night wasn't just circumstance, it was connection, chemistry, something that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. I'd always found Marcus attractive, always enjoyed our banter, always felt a little flutter when he walked into a room. I'd just been too married, too loyal, too committed to acknowledge it. But Daniel was gone. And Sarah. She deserves to know, I said quietly. About the baby. About everything. I can't build happiness on her heartbreak. Marcus nodded slowly. Then we tell her. Together. No more lies, no more hiding. He squeezed my hand. Whatever happens after that, we face it honestly. She'll hate me. Maybe. Maybe not. A glimmer of his old humor surfaced. Sarah's always been impossible to predict. Remember when we thought she'd be furious about that surprise party and she ended up loving it? This is slightly bigger than a surprise party. Understatement of the century. He pulled me closer, and I let him. Just for a moment. Just to feel the solid warmth of another person who knew all my secrets and didn't run away. But Emma, whatever happens, you're not alone. I mean that. This is the crossroads of the entire story. Loyalty versus love, truth versus safety. What would you do in their shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you're invested in how this ends, that like and subscribe button is right there. Now, let's see what happens when the truth finally comes out. We told Sarah on a Sunday afternoon, in the living room of the house she shared with Marcus. I watched my best friend's face cycle through shock, disbelief, hurt, and finally a terrible, quiet anger that was somehow worse than screaming would have been. 3 months, she said flatly. You've been lying to me for 3 months. Sarah, Marcus reached for her, but she jerked away. Don't you dare touch me right now. Her eyes fixed on me. And you. I sat beside you at your husband's funeral. I held your hand while you cried. I listened to you talk about how much you missed him, how empty you felt, and the whole time, you were sleeping with my husband. It happened once, I said miserably. Just once. And I have regretted it every single day since. Oh, well, if you regretted it, that makes everything fine. Sarah's voice rose. My best friend and my husband. Pregnant. What am I supposed to do with that, Emma? How am I supposed to ever trust either of you again? You can't, Marcus said quietly. And we're not asking you to. We're asking for a chance to make this right. Whatever that looks like. Sarah laughed bitterly. Make it right. There is no making this right. There's only damage control now. She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. I need you both to leave. I need time to think. Sarah, please. Leave. The word was final, absolute. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk. Don't contact me before then. I left first, unable to bear the weight of her gaze any longer. Marcus followed a few minutes later, his own expression devastated. We stood in my driveway, 2 broken people who had shattered something precious. She hates me, I said. She hates both of us right now. But Sarah isn't the grudge-holding type. She'll process, and then she'll decide what she needs. Marcus sighed. I should go to a hotel. Give her space. Come inside. Just for a while. I don't want to be alone. He hesitated, then nodded. We sat on my couch in silence, the same couch where grief had overcome us 3 months ago. But there was no wine tonight, no desperate reaching. Just 2 people waiting to see what wreckage remained when the dust settled. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of agonizing silence from Sarah. 2 weeks of Marcus staying in a corporate apartment, texting me updates that there were no updates. 2 weeks of morning sickness and doctor's appointments and the strange new reality of preparing for a child I'd never planned to have. Then, on a Tuesday morning, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Sarah standing there, eyes red-rimmed but jaw set with determination. Can I come in? I stepped aside wordlessly. She walked into my living room, looking around as if seeing it for the first time. I've thought a lot about what I want to say, she began. I wrote speeches. I rehearsed them in my car. But now that I'm here, none of them seem right. Sarah, I'm so sorry. She held up a hand. Let me finish. Please. I nodded and sat down, giving her space. I'm angry. I'm so angry that sometimes I can't breathe. You were my person, Emma. The one relationship I thought I could count on no matter what. Her voice cracked, but she pushed through. And Marcus. I knew our marriage was struggling. I knew we'd lost something. But I never thought he would with you. There's no excuse, I said quietly. Nothing I can say that makes it okay. No, there isn't. Sarah finally sat, across from me rather than beside. But here's what I've realized in these 2 weeks. My anger at you is real, but it's also a distraction. Because if I focus on your betrayal, I don't have to look at my own failures. Your failures. I checked out of my marriage years ago. Her voice was steady now, confessional. I let work consume me. I stopped fighting for us. I told myself Marcus was fine, that he didn't need more than I was giving. But he did, and I didn't give it, and eventually he looked elsewhere. She met my eyes. That doesn't excuse what you did. But it means I can't pretend I'm a victim who did nothing wrong. What are you saying? I'm saying, I don't know if I can forgive you. Either of you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. She took a shaky breath. But I don't want to lose everything good in my life because I'm holding on to hate. Daniel dying taught me that. How quickly everything can be taken away. I can't get back the friendship we had. I can't pretend this didn't happen. But maybe we can build something new. Something honest. Tears streamed down my face. I don't deserve that. After what I did, I don't deserve your grace. Maybe not. The ghost of a smile crossed her lips. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. And for that baby you're carrying. My husband's baby, who might also be the closest thing to family I'll ever have. What about Marcus? We're getting divorced. It was coming anyway. This just accelerated the timeline. She looked down at her hands. He loves you, Emma. I can see it now, looking back. The way he always lit up around you. I told myself it was just friendship, but I knew. Part of me always knew. I never meant. I know. She reached out and took my hand, a gesture so familiar, so instinctive, that it broke something loose in my chest. I know you didn't plan this. I know grief makes people do things they wouldn't otherwise. And I know you've beaten yourself up for 3 months already. She squeezed gently. Maybe it's time to stop punishing yourself and figure out how to move forward. The months that followed weren't easy. There were setbacks, arguments, moments when I was sure Sarah would change her mind and disappear from my life forever. But slowly, painfully, we rebuilt something between us. Not the same friendship, that was gone forever. But something new, forged in fire, tempered by honesty. Marcus and I took things slow. We went on actual dates, had actual conversations, learned to know each other without the fog of grief or guilt. He made me laugh, truly laugh, for the first time since Daniel died. His sharp wit became less of an armor and more of an invitation, playful banter that left me breathless and wanting more. You know, he said one evening, as we sat on my porch watching the sunset, for two people who made the worst possible choice, we seemed to be figuring things out. We had a lot of help. I leaned into him, my belly now visibly rounded. And a lot of luck. Not luck, he corrected. Second chances. Which, statistically speaking, we probably don't deserve. Definitely don't deserve. I smiled up at him. But I'll take it anyway. Victoria came to visit as my due date approached, finally meeting Sarah and seeing firsthand the complicated family we'd woven together. She'd become a regular presence in my life, calling weekly, sending photos, helping me piece together the history Daniel had kept hidden. He would have loved this, Victoria said, watching Sarah help me assemble a crib while Marcus read instructions aloud in an increasingly frustrated voice. Seeing you happy. Surrounded by people who love you. You think. I know. She smiled, Daniel's smile. He spent his whole life running from family. It's fitting that his death brought you one. When my daughter was born, on a crisp autumn morning, the room was full of the people I loved most. Marcus held my hand through every contraction. Sarah stood by my head, coaching me through the breathing exercises. Victoria waited in the hallway, ready to meet the newest member of our strange, beautiful family. I named her Hope. Hope Victoria. Because she represented everything I'd learned in the past year, that endings could become beginnings, that betrayal could lead to truth, that even the worst moments could plant seeds for something beautiful. Marcus cried when he held her for the first time. Sarah cried when she saw him crying. Victoria took photos, laughing through her own tears. And me? I finally understood what Daniel had been trying to tell me in that letter, all those months ago. She's stronger than she knows. She'll survive this, even when she thinks she can't. I had survived. Not just survived, thrived. Not despite the pain and secrets and impossible choices, but because of them. Because every obstacle had forced me to grow, to change, to become someone I couldn't have imagined being. A year later, Sarah and I were having lunch at our favorite cafe when she surprised me with a question. Do you ever regret it? Any of it? I thought carefully before answering. I regret the pain I caused you. I'll always regret that. But the rest. I looked out the window, where Marcus was pushing Hope's stroller through the park across the street. I can't regret the road that led me here. Even finding out about Daniel? About what he was hiding. Especially that. I turned back to her. Because now I understand why he was the way he was. Why he carried that sadness. He wasn't keeping secrets to hurt me. He was trying to protect me. Protect both of us. He just didn't know how to let go of the fear. And you? Have you let go of yours? I smiled, thinking of the journey that had brought me here. The grief that had cracked me open. The mistake that had threatened to destroy everything. The truths that had shattered my understanding of my own identity. And the love, complicated, imperfect, hard-won love, that had emerged from the ashes. I'm working on it, I said. Every day. Marcus appeared at our table, Hope babbling in his arms. He kissed my forehead, made Sarah laugh with one of his signature one-liners, and settled into the chair beside me like he'd always belonged there. Maybe he had. Maybe some things are written in stars we can't see, paths we can't predict, connections we can't explain. Or maybe we simply make choices, moment by moment, and build our futures from whatever wreckage and wonder we find. Either way, I had learned the most important truth of all. Life doesn't wait for us to be ready. It doesn't ask permission to change us, challenge us, break us apart, and put us back together in new configurations. All we can do is face each revelation with courage, each mistake with honesty, and each new beginning with hope. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, the people we've hurt become the people who save us, and the secrets that threaten to destroy everything become the foundation for something stronger than we ever imagined. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, then you understand why stories like this matter. We're all walking around with secret burdens, hidden truths, impossible choices. But we're also capable of grace, redemption, and love that defies every obstacle. I share these stories because I believe in the power of connection, the importance of truth, and the extraordinary resilience of the human heart. If you felt that today, I hope you'll subscribe to this channel and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Because everyone deserves to know that their story isn't over yet. That hope isn't just a name. It's a choice we make, every single day, to believe that the best chapters might still be unwritten. Thank you for watching. Thank you for feeling. And I'll see you in the next story. The end.